Tupac Cover Up. I hope y'all enjoy.
they sort of get this godlike complex. Look at Whitey Bulger. Look at, there's so many stories of FBI informants being like, well, I kind of have a free pass here to become a gangster in a way because there's this sense that the FBI is going to protect them. I'm not saying that this happened in Reggie's case, but I can see his idiot brain being like, oh, well, I'm in bed with the FBI. I can fucking, be carte blanche here in the crimes I'm committing or the sinister aspect of what I want to do. And maybe he did get away with some shit. I don't know. I don't have that answer.
The end of an era. I've had my biker moment. Plus, I listed this on eBay in like 2 seconds at a really good price. Okay, next.
Find what you love, sell what you don't. eBay. Things people love.
Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Refreshing and goes down smooth. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
Who you got? That's all it took. They bonded over betting stories before even learning each other's names. And when their bet hit, it turns out this reunion wasn't so bad. Make it a bet that turns into a bond. BetMGM Sportsbook. Make it legendary.
Ooh, that's rough. At least with Safe Light, you can get that fixed any way you want. Any way you want. Any way you want. That's the way you need. Any way you want. Special chick fix while I get my hair clipped? Yeah, they can fix my glass while we fish for bass. If you want, they can recalibrate my safety features while I sit at home in my comfy pants. That one doesn't rhyme, but sure.
Get it fixed any way you want at safelight.com.
With some shit. I don't know. I don't have that answer. Here's one way to look at the potential that a cooperator has out there. Reggie Jr. and Sr., they were federally indicted, get a very, very short prison sentence. Look at Sammy the Bull Gavano. He admitted to 18 murders, I think 18 or 20 murders, but gave up all this information to help the Fed finally get John Gotti, and he had to be willing to testify. That goes to show you that if you've got the right information and the government wants it from you, it's a pretty good bargaining chip. So my point is Reggie, just because he's a 5-year police officer, did 5 years at Compton PD, does that help open the door a little bit to say, yeah, then maybe we should sit down with this guy? No, what you really are going to do is between that and understanding his background and the people he rubbed shoulders with and hung out with and the kind of position he had at death row and the people that he knew there, does this guy have potential information? Yes. But you also have to understand he had ulterior motives while he was working at death row. So you can't just accept everything that he says as being truthful. You've got to corroborate it.
Kathy D was the first suspect in the murder of Notorious Big, and the cops really did go after him. I mean, they were doing helicopter surveillance, and they did basically a raid on his property, but very quickly they became convinced it was him. One, he had a solid alibi for himself. Plus, but when they talked to the people, he was at the Peterson Museum that night, and Biggie's entourage says, me and Biggie were like on friendly terms. They were hanging out talking. Biggie told us, no, he's cool.
And thanks to Greg Kading, who shared documents the FBI clearly intended not to be public, we have learned that Mr. Davis was informing for the FBI in 1998 during the same period of time that the LAPD was investigating Mr. Davis for the Wallace killing.
Chuck Phillips intimated something like that when I think he had talked. I think he was the guy who I suspect, I don't know, I suspect he was the one that was caving up with
money's after a money grab. I mean, let's face it. You throw the name Tupac or Biggie out there, and everybody's got something to say about it. Everybody's got something to sell paraphernalia about it. Everybody out there is to make a buck. And even if it's a complete false narrative and a complete lie, it just never ends. And there's certain people out there that are so entrenched in trying to make money and have made money on these lies and false narratives that they've been pushing that it's almost like they can't stop. I mean, you're so deep into it now, you got to keep it going. And there's people like Reggie that, you know, at one moment he will say he knows everything, and that's how can he, that's why.
Through all of my research, I've never been able to get a single person to verify either story. And it looks like Kading's task force was having the same trouble with Dave.
Okay, on that Thursday.
That Thursday?
Yeah.
And the fight was on a Saturday. Y'all showed up on a Thursday. And if I'm not mistaken, the day before the shooting, you spoke to Suge Knight and Tupac, right? A day prior.
I didn't talk. Oh, Tupac don't know me. Tupac don't know me. Tupac don't know me.
With Tupac?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we had seen him the day before. They had pulled up his pop. Tupac don't know me. Tupac don't know me. Tupac don't know me. So all the girls was around. He came, you know, like a player. And shook my hand. He wasn't like a player. And shook my hand. What up, PG? Give a little hug. Boom.
But Suge Knight, you had
Yeah, I was, we was, they pulled up. They Rolls Royces.
tell me about that. Because that was the Friday. That was the day before.
Yeah, he got out and came to shook my hand. What up, big dog?
Suge Knight.
Yeah. It was Pop and what's his name? So all the girls was around. He came, you know, yeah. That's why I didn't understand why everybody jump on my nephew today. Go stupid.
Okay, so he came up to you, he shook his hand.
So, man, what up, big dog? What you doing? You know, all the bitches, they talk, all the bras was around him. So they like, who the fuck is this dude? He must be powerful. He wasn't there the day before. He was just at Tupac, Suge, and the other boy. He wasn't fucking there.
To be honest with you, it is a known fact that Suge Knight and Tupac did, you know, come to Vegas earlier that Saturday.
They came earlier that Saturday. They came earlier that Saturday. Earlier that Saturday. That Saturday. That Saturday. That Saturday.
Yeah, they wasn't there Friday. And the reason why I say that, I mean, I did a lot of interviews, and there's a whole lot of interviews out there.
I know Larry Grove Jr. I know his daddy. And his daddy like this.
Yeah, Larry Grove. Yeah, I did.
Larry Grove Jr. Yeah, I know the daddy. I mean, they were like this.
Yeah, so I did an interview with him. I did an audio interview with him like probably 2 years ago. And yeah, he detailed having a run-in with Tupac and Suge Knight at the In-N-Out Burger.
Went from Rolls Royce over there in the Hot Wheels. The pretty they was Bentley Auroras. Yeah, pretty motherfuckers. You look like Hot Wheels. Yeah, so I have ran into him the day before.
Okay. Okay.
Day before.
Okay. I think it's incredibly deceptive to know Davis got jammed up in a lie and try to cover it up with very specific editing. It just shows they will do anything to keep that narrative alive and in the forefront.
In our last interview, you said that you ran into Suge and Pac the day before the incident happened, but people were saying that everyone actually was there. Everyone flew in the day of, so they weren't even there the day before.
Okay. It could have been a fight before. I'm not mistaken. I'm getting older now. It could have been a fight before this fight.
And why should we trust Keefe D now?
You shouldn't trust Keefe. You absolutely shouldn't.
being charged with murder in Las Vegas. And so you ask the question, why now? Because nothing has changed. The Orlando Anderson, Keith Davis narrative has evolved, but it still is the same pieces and the components. And in fact, they've even changed who they believe the shooter was. It's no longer Orlando Anderson. They've moved the goalpost yet again and charged a guy by the name of Big Dre with being the shooter.
Well, it's 27 years later, and we still don't know exactly everything we need to know. But we do know that it had nothing to do with Orlando Anderson.
They've named several witnesses and investigators that worked the Orlando Anderson narrative, including Bobby Ladd and Tim Brennan, who's now deceased, and Mike Coet, who was a Los Angeles County sheriff, worked in the Watts Gators, saying that Greg Kading is basically a liar. You have Greg Kading now going on YouTube videos saying that Mike Coet is a liar. And what they don't understand is that they're actually literally tearing this case apart for the Las Vegas prosecutors, who must be irate. And that puts you in an interesting position because you really don't know which one to believe. I mean, you got the guy pitching the Orlando Anderson narrative. You got the other guy pitching the Orlando Anderson.
That's why you got to have a little bit extra on these cases. You got to have you got to have that smoking gun and able to present that case to a jury.
Do you foresee a prosecution in these cases?
With all the different clues and different theories that have been spoken about over the years, it will be a nightmare in trial. So that's why you almost need a smoking gun, so a judge can take a look at that and say, none of this other stuff is relevant. We're sticking with this. That's what they need to do, is streamline it. But right now, I believe prosecutors and police in both Las Vegas and LAPD, I think they would love to have this thing solved, but it's a discovery nightmare.
Basically, at this point, again, I'm just looking at the evidence that's been provided to me. I could walk in there right now and say, not guilty. It ain't there. There's nothing there.
Tupac Shakur investigation has been restarted by a different team. First, the original investigators in Vegas, then the Wallace investigators, then the Greg Kading investigators, and then finally the new Vegas investigators. Every single time a detective has begun this investigation, one of the first people that they reach out to is the very person that is basically the information traffic controller, Reggie Wright Jr., who provides them happily the Orlando Anderson narrative.
You know, as
I found it. The all-new Borgata Online. That's some lucky dough. New casino player offer. Win up to 1,000 bonus spins today.
We're billionaires. If it's something worth doing, it's worth doing in a thrilling way. And that's why we love Rewards Club on FanDuel Casino. I love getting more for my money with a weekly bonus back. Plus, players get access to thrilling rewards like a birthday bonus.
Calling all trillionaires. FanDuel Casino.
I got hurt. Don't you dare take the low ball offer from insurance. Reggie, don't sign it. Just sign it. Call Top Dog. Listen to the Top Dog guy. Oh, I'm calling Top Dog. It's 5 minutes to see the Top Dog. Top Dog. If you don't win, you don't pay. There's no risk. No risk, but I got the reward. That's why you call the dog. Any accident, go to Top Dog Law.
Happily, the Orlando Anderson narrative.
You know, as a journalist, I've gone through, I don't know, a couple of hundred investigations. My father was an undercover cop. My father-in-law was a detective. My brother-in-law was a detective in New York. My nephew's a sheriff in Illinois. So I'm from cops. Other side of the family is criminals, but I'm from cops as well. So I know how things begin. That's part of the reason why I incorporated a cop's mind into journalism. When an investigation begins, you start with nothing. It's an empty table. You got to call somebody to begin the day, begin the work. It's not the cops' fault that they chose the wrong person. But if you keep going back, as Greg Kading did, to the Orlando Anderson narrative, the longer you go there, the more you're going to go, you're going to be split from the truth. They call Reggie Wright. He says the same thing over again, and it just goes in circles forever.
Well, I think when you have information like that, that information is power. And you got to understand at this time, Reggie's already manipulating things or kind of positioning himself to. He's not only already in a good position with Death Row Records, but he's got higher aspirations at Death Row Records. And I think Reggie as Death Row people and LAPD people have control of this Tupac murder, and Las Vegas PD does not. It's just fine with them.
So now you have Reggie Wright Jr. secretly snitching out Death Row Records, while publicly he's throwing Kevin Hackey under the bus for his work with the ATF. Guess he has to keep his street cred.
But people kept getting steered back to that, and that's what causes a lot of the bullshit.
It's a big country. People go wherever, we don't have tracking devices on them. So we have to depend on people that we know we can get in touch with to try and reach out to them.
I was never interviewed by any of the police agencies, the FBI, nor Las Vegas PD. I found that to be a little strange because for the last week, I was with Tupac, and I didn't get a single question from anyone about what I.
Okay. Mike, why are you coming forward with this information now?
I'm coming forward with the information because someone asked me, and I was willing to tell them what I knew.
But what happens when Michael Moore steps forward? Not only does no one care, but Kading actually goes on the offensive against this witness to falsely state that Michael Moore spoke with Vegas police and stuff like that.
Reggie Wright Jr. was the head of Right Way Securities and provided security for Death Row Records. For him to say that no LAPD officers, other than a couple that we mentioned, that he was not aware of any of these other officers, such as Mack or Perez or Durden or Martin or Gaines, provided security at Death Row. Reggie's either, and it's a fact.
There's an allegation that you hired police officers Sammy Martin, David Mack, and Rafael Perez. Do you know Sammy Martin?
No.
Do you know David Mack?
No.
Have you ever met Rafael Perez?
No.
Okay, so how are these three cops? We know for a fact Rafael Perez and David Mack were corrupt because they got convicted. Don't know a lot about Sammy Martin, but how are these three cops, LAPD, linked to you?
I told you, right. I've already know him.
Is it possible that Suge had relationships with Rafael Perez, David Mack, and Sammy Martin, and you didn't know about it between 94 and 96?
Shit, what he told me. And two, the main thing is, these are allegedly Kevin Gaines friends, right?
And it's ridiculous that he keeps putting this false narrative that he wasn't aware of any of these guys providing security, or none of them were ever around that he ever saw. That is just a flat out lie. Like, Reggie, wake up. Nobody's buying this bullshit anymore.
And as long as the name Orlando Anderson was in the news cycle, they could go about the business of destroying anyone who did not believe the narrative, even going to the point of saying Tupac hated Frank Alexander. It wasn't true, but it was necessary.
I would like to address a interview question that Reggie Wright did on allhiphop.com. Reggie made a statement that Tupac didn't like Frank. I could do a whole story on that answer right there for Reggie. First of all, nigga, let me tell you something. I was the main bodyguard. That's first of all. Okay? You're the one that called me, and I'm speaking directly to Reggie in this here. You're the one that called me and said, hey, I got good news, I have bad news. The bad news is you're not going to get a pay raise. The good news is Tupac wants you to be his main bodyguard. This was in March of 1996, right after the Mike Tyson, Bruce Seldon fight.
Once they were inside and they were able to steer cops in Orlando Anderson's direction, they were able to keep anyone else with any other evidence out. But the problem for these guys was that the Anderson narrative kept collapsing under its own weight because it was based on poor witnesses, including Dwayne Davis himself. And shall we say, conflicted witnesses, like Reggie Wright Jr. or anyone from the Compton PD.
It's the inherent part of a witness that wants to be important. They want to feel that they're going to contribute a piece of evidence or testimony that's going to just change everything about your case. But uh, once you slice through these people and examine it, you find out they really didn't. They heard it from somebody else who heard it from somebody else, and all they're doing is repeating what the actual witnesses have actually seen.
There were no personal firsthand witnesses to the shooting presented at the grand jury testimony. And that's important because if you don't have witnesses that have personal firsthand information, it becomes what we call hearsay.
The prosecutor is the one that's going to have to submit this to a jury. Then we've got a problem. And if the evidence is not...
Claus must certainly be real because even in the early days of Santa Claus, it was a very simple narrative. There was a man who gave gifts to kids, then you got the reindeer, then you got Mrs. Claus, then you got the elves, and then you have this whole detailed story about Santa Claus. But at the end of the day, is it true or is it just what a lot of people are saying?
Recently, actor Alec Baldwin was given a loaded prop gun, which he used and shot a camera person to death. Could there be an act of criminal negligence there?
Protocols are a set of...
Did she load the weapon? Yes. Did she check what she was loading? No. Why? Well, in her own words, she didn't need to be shaking the dummies all the time. Did she check after that? No. Have her concerns changed? No. Here's what she says. This whole thing has been a character attack on her. I'm not a monster. She and another are talking about how much of Hannah's life they could take up, and that this is messing up her modeling career. And what does people die? It's an unfortunate part of life, but it doesn't mean she should be in jail. I did not hear you take accountability in your allocution. You said you were sorry, but not you were sorry for what you did. You were sorry for and hope they can find peace.
So why would someone in protective services not be held to the same standards?
Did you know it was dangerous in Las Vegas? Yes.
That's what I was doing. I went to MGM, saw that shit was hectic and all that.
Did you check to make sure your bodyguards had radios and were appropriately armed? No. The tactical disadvantage your staff had in Vegas? No. And what was your excuse?
I've never had a body.
Here's what he says.
Well, that's why I'm here to defend him and say, hey, yeah, man, I might have been neglectful, but I wasn't intentional. Tupac Shakur was dying. His date was written on the wall for September the 13th for him to die. I'm gonna be honest, Tupac called, cussing, going off. And that was the last thing Tupac ever said. I'm gonna spank your ass. Say another word. I promise you. I want you to. Let's play. Let's have fun. Let's have a 2024. Great year, Negro. I'm so tired of this. I wish I was fired. R.I.P. What they gonna be saying? He come, my little Reggie, R.I.P.
I did not hear you take accountability in your allocution. You said you were sorry, but not you were sorry for what you did. You were sorry for and hope they can find peace. The word remorse, a deep regret coming from a sense of guilt for past wrongs.
There's a dead body over here. I get that. But when you look at the people that covered it up, It's beyond comprehension. And I know people say, "Oh, Phil Carson's crazy. This is the biggest conspiracy theory." There's no way you can get the somebody at the LA Times and somebody at LAPD and somebody at the DA's office and the city attorney's office to all come together to help cover this up. No, it is true. And we know who those people are. We have audio recording. We have the documentation. We have sworn statements for people that admitted they helped try to cover this thing up. And that's why I say the cover up is worse than the crime because of the people that were involved.
The end of an era. But I've had my biker moment. Plus, I listed this on eBay in like 2 seconds. I got a really good price. Okay, next.
Find what you love, sell what you don't. eBay. Things people love.
We're heading to the beach for another Twisted Tea drop. We're smashing real Twisted Tea fans. You love the smooth and refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Real protein, 5% alcohol. Keep it twisted.
BetMGM is where you leave ordinary for something a little more interesting. With your favorite games, like The Price is Right and Rake It Bacon. Or in the center of it all with live dealer classics, because interesting leads to excitement, which opens the door to extraordinary. Make it Vegas, almost anywhere. BetMGM Casino. Make it legendary.
We're coming to full circle now. I don't think we're ever going to hear every single detail. That's impossible. Just like with the assassination of John F. Kennedy, we're never going to know exactly what happened. There's a few suspects out there. There were a lot of people that gained from his death, but there's going to be instances where you will never get the full story. You're just going to get bits and pieces, and you're going to have to be satisfied with the bits and pieces that you get.
When Hit 'em Up came out, you got the feeling that things were about to get more explosive. Things were starting to happen. I was at the Source Awards when they booed Snoop and the guys from the West Coast, and Snoop gave them some shit in the audience. You boo Snoop Dogg, you don't have no love for Snoop Dogg. And I said to my Dave, we got to get the fuck out of this place right now. Someone's going to pull some gun out. We're going to get shot up in an accident. And we left. Nothing happened, but it got popped. I think that's when things really started to get out of control. These guys got such huge egos, and it's not even them as much as it is the people behind them. These also ran, these guys behind the big guy, telling them they can't be this way. It almost reminds me of De Niro egging on Joe Pesci to shoot Spider and Goodfellas. I can't talk to you like that. They got a lot of those guys in their ears. And I think that most of the time these guys can settle things outside of music. But once you start settling things on the airwaves, it gets messy. It gets really messy. People die.
It was at night. I believe I was in bed, and I got a call from Daryl James, the owner, and he told me what happened, and I was and I was just shocked, and it was sort of like, oh damn, because the way things have been going with Tupac, because he was so explosive, because he was so controversial, because he was so confrontational. I was nervous for him. I was nervous that something like this would happen. I'd actually gone to talk to an elementary school, and the teacher made the kids write me letters to say thank you. And in one of the letters from one of the kids, they said, "Be careful."
But he was magic. To me, the cats who were the biggest ladies magnets, Denzel, Big Daddy Kane, and Tupac. I've never seen anybody draw women like those three brothers, ever.
There's just no question that he was taken. He was taken, like so many people are taken. Biggie was taken. Who was responsible for taking their lives? I don't know, but God knows.
I don't think he would not have been the wild, the rash young man. That's your youth. He's 20 years old. So like, when you put that aside, and he would have had all of that
experience to push him far. You know, he would have been that, you know, push him far. No telling what he would have done. I know it wouldn't have, I don't believe it would have been, it would have been 37 rapping because his mind, he got bored too easy. To, you know, just because he, you know, might not have done the 2 movies, but would have done maybe moved on to something else because he got bored easy. But the movies, I think, because he really wanted to do that.
I just get the feeling that after that first shooting, his life took on a different perspective. And I think he wanted to get as much music out as he could. I don't really picture him being a slave in the studio. I think he had that much to say. I don't know if you've ever been on death's bed or been ill in a hospital and doctors give you some bad news that this could go wrong, this could go sideways. It takes a lot to pick up a pen and pencil and write to people you love. I've done it once. It's a lot of work. To do what he did in a studio and really spit out so much about himself dying and all the things he saw ahead of him is remarkable. You know, we lost so much more than just a great rapper. We lost a magnificent person and a beautiful soul, really.
We never really totally counted him out. We just kept running articles and photos, whatever we had, because we were hoping that maybe he wasn't really dead, that we were going to hear from him. We actually did think that there was a chance that he was still alive.
The one thing I can say about Pop is he never lived his life as a lie. Sometimes I wish he had bit the truth a little bit to soften the edges so he could still be with us, you know. But I just think we're all fortunate because we had a chance to know Pop, you know, and he left us a legacy. But I still believe that he and Biggie both prophesied their death because they talked about dying and they glorified it and they promoted it and death showed up.
The biggest thing that's bothered me about this case is that this case has been surrounded by death. And the problem that I had with the death surrounding this case is that none of it needed to happen. But it did. And to those people who were the irresponsible ones, who had no business making the decisions that they were making, I tell you, the dead, thank you.
The truth, John 8:32, will set you free. Read it. Figure it out. I have nothing to lie about. I'm doing for my friend, for my brother, what I think he would have done for anyone else and stood up for in his belief.
Right, and me too, but like a lot of you know, capital. Yeah.
Just his mother also. So let's forget that. They say the same. They said the same thing about his mother, about capitalizing and exploring. So let's see the here and there. He was what he was, and we wanted him. He was a commodity in his head. He was the best that we had in terms of the ability to make money. And the documentaries and all of that, here's the thing. The people that the good people do it and the bad. If the bad people can do it, why can't the good people? If the people that didn't like him can do it, why can't the people that shared? If the person who's doing it now, who's behind it now, has a yearning in his soul and spirit, which I truly believe, to get to the bottom of it as far as he can go with it, to do all that he can to rectify that thing, to make that thing right, to make it okay, to make it as best that he can, to put out as much as he can about it, to make it right with himself and his soul. Why the hell not? Why stop that? That's something that he is a burning desire in him. You know what I mean? I don't doubt that. I do not doubt Frank Alexander's loyalty. What harm has he done?
First came my book, Got Your Back. Read it. You'll love it. It was a bestseller. You'll understand it. You want to know the truth? Here it is right here. Read it. You ain't got it? Get it. You'll love it. Watch it. It's a good one. It's great. Tupac, Big
Frank. Tupac? Big Frank. Bro, before I wait, get the DVD, Amazon.com. Most of your other retailers. Look for it. You'll find it. Tupac assassination. We got it. Conspiracy or revenge. This is the one. Get it. You'll love it.
Hello.
Yo.
Hey.
You know what I'm thinking? Player props, player props, player props. A little easier than I thought it was going to be. I don't know. Ooh, betting in space. I'll be honest, I think the move's overrated. I'm sorry. Back to my original thought.
Oh my God. New customers get up to $300 back in bonus bets every day for 10 days if your bets don't win.
We see you, how you hold your world together, how you're the glue. We see how much you care, how you're a force in everything you do. Even if you can't see the finish line or picture the follow through, we do. We see how the caring part of you is everywhere, an example others look to. You can't help but care, and that care can become your career. Visit ultimatemedical.edu.
You make me feel so miserable.
Flonase relieves your worst allergy symptoms so you can start feeling better the same day. Save your relationship with nature. Flonase.
Friends dyed their hair every month, and I didn't want to have to do that. I panicked when I saw my first gray hair. I did not want to dye them, but that's when I found Ray. I heard about a Ray from my hairstylist. I gave it a try and saw results, and I haven't seen any new grays in the 4 years that I've been using it. I've seen slowing of my gray hair growth, but even some repigmentation. My hair has never been this luscious and silky and the best version of my natural hair.
I've always wanted to be a superhero, but being a nurse, working 12 hours a day, and then afterwards trying to go to the gym, I ain't got time to do grocery shopping. That's the price of greatness. Instacart becoming a clutch though. I will go ahead and load up my cart, so that way once I'm done with the gym, the food's already there, I get straight to cooking. The way Instacart saves me time, it allows me to eat well, to train well, so I can be the best version of myself for anybody that I come across in life.
Said your pumps are not good. Your pump, Frank, needed dead for not doing. Why wouldn't Frank think that? What his bond was his pump was his bond. What he felt from Pop, I cannot say he didn't feel it. He hasn't shown anything to the contrary. I don't know anything different from Pop, however that left that was. Frank came to his mother, asked permission every time. I got your back, got that, saw it, could I do it, that, ready, and whatever. She never said to, I don't like what he's done. You know, he came to his mother.
Because at that time of his death, I had gone through other deaths as well. And you're absolutely right. When we close our eyes,
I think that the reason a lot of it was covered up is because most people that worked for death row security had a badge of some type. They were either law enforcement officers, they were fire department officers, but all of them had a badge of some type. And they were able to pull their badges out to get in and out of certain situations. And I think the ball was dropped right there. I think people had badges, they didn't want to push the issue, and they chose to overlook looking at death row. And when I look at all what's happened with Rampart, people that we had working for death row, well, we had Los Angeles police officers working within the organization, competent police officers working inside the organization. That is where it failed. People had badges, people had careers, their badges stopped us from getting to the truth.
Vegas, and I think it's his mom that had to kind of help raise Tupac or something like that. He stated that he was an eyewitness to that shooting and knew who shot Tupac.
And I said, we need to talk to Yafu Fua, but we don't know where he's at. And they said, yeah, we'll set you up with it.
He goes back to Jersey, and like a couple days before the police are going to come out and talk to him, he gets killed execution style.
Well, next thing you know, we're getting notification from, I think it's in Orange, New Jersey, if I remember right, that he's been murdered in a housing project or something like that.
And they did a full investigation on that, and I remember I talking with it, whatever, be off on his own and not get out there, quicker or give him some type of heads up or protection or whatever, and they lost a key witness like that.
I think it's the journalists who are going to end up solving this case, because the police departments aren't putting the effort in to, first of all, they're not listening to people. There are witnesses out there that the police never interviewed. And of course, RJ has interviewed quite a few of those witnesses that have never been interviewed by the police department. And so what we can do is force them to do it by coming up with the information ourselves.
I think we were blessed with Russ. I think we were blessed with the fact that every effort that he made to try to find the truth. The truth isn't perfect. And unfortunately, that's the essence of investigations. But not once did I ever see him give me anything that was not, that he believed to be the truth. Or when someone had relayed to him that believed it to be the truth. We could all make mistakes, but Russ did everything in his power to do it right, because he was
I think it's sad that he's not around. I think Russ died when he was pretty young, and I think he could have continued to offer information and leads with all of this stuff.
I answered the phone. It was my brother. He was leaving. He goes, hey, he goes, oh my God, I'm glad we found you. And I said, what? What's going on? He goes, Russ is dead. I go, what? Because Russ is dead. He started crying. And I said, what? I kept saying, well, I don't know what else to say because I don't think I was hearing it right. And he said that never whatever to contact anybody. And I called the kids. And they all came over. Well, Jennifer, she was in Texas planning her wedding, going to school full time and planning her wedding. And this is August when this happens, August 19th when this passes. And she's getting married in October. And the first thing she said to me was, Mom, who's going to walk me down the aisle? She goes, I need him to walk me down the aisle. And that was just too much to bear. So, I know. We never got to do this, did we? I'm glad we did. I'm so glad that you were his friend and in his life. I really am. And I'm really sad that things went the way they did, and I don't think he really realized how he was being pulled.
A lot of people have asked me, because I have friends, Frank Alexander and Russell Poole, who have died because of them, and I certainly do them in memorial of these people. But I look at life as kind of a relay race. Nobody runs the whole race by themselves. Everybody needs help. So the job for guys like me is to pick it up, continue to run with it, and actually make it right for those people who can't do it for themselves, and that's what keeps me going every day. I will tell you, it wasn't more than a week ago I had a dream. Frank Alexander was in the dream. Frank Alexander told me two things. He said, be cautious and keep going. And that's all I needed to hear.
See, RJ, this is what we get for you not being here reading the questions to me so I can just answer them. The same motivation. It's not going to be the same dialogue because it was not scripted. It was live. I've already tried to. I had my positive mental attitude all built up for like a week, and I lost it after yesterday when you said the mic was off. RJ, here's your money. I said, what I told you the phones were there. Scratch that. Let me stop. Okay, RJ, just disregard all of that. Okay, because I'm looking at Rick and we're trying to figure this out. Okay, are we working? Okay, we're working. Okay, here we go. I was fired. They fired me. And I collected unemployment. I'm kidding. Yeah, they did. They fired me. They did. Yeah, Reggie did. Yeah, I guess he had no choice too, though. But yeah, I was fine.
Yes, I did answer that question. I was,
Fired?
yeah, I guess.
I'm out.
One to 2 days after Tupac was killed, Death Row called a meeting for all their security.
Should call the meeting. All artists were instructed to.
Rafael Perez, David Mack, and Gaines.
The meeting was basically about what happened, and the artists were drilling security about what methods we had used and what were some of our tactics.
When the security team was dismissed, Rafael Perez and David Mack stood back, and that's when Reggie and Dave Kenner told them that they needed to find someone to take care of the business. And that business, I believe, was to kill Notorious B.I.G. and P. Diddy.
The end of an era. But I've had my biker moment. Plus, I listed this on eBay in like 2 seconds. Got a really good price. Okay, next.
Find what you love, sell what you don't. eBay. Things people love. I would definitely characterize myself as a survivor. I survived it.
Why do you want to tell your story now?
I felt like my silence allowed.
Can you describe the physical abuse?
Until that beat come alive. It's like he knew that was his purpose.
college in Jenkintown, you belong here. With small classes, big support, and pathways to grow. Don't believe us? Just ask real Manor College students.
How would I describe Manor? Supportive.
Community.
And belong here.
You belong here.
You belong here. Apply today at manor.edu.
Praying for this and for somebody that is It is just trying to grow closer to you, Lord. This book was curated just for you. The book of the daily devotionals that were written to be read in 5 minutes or less. Even with all the distractions in this life, no excuse. 5 minutes a day literally change the trajectory of your entire year. Don't wish it miss this one.
We're here for more citizens of the North.